this week on the Financial Freedom podcast, we will answer the question that we posed at the end of last week's episode. Are we bonkers for buying the HMO in Swinton? So, you'll remember last week's episode, we discussed the overall cost of the project was $326,000 and about £300. Okay, so having spent all of that, okay, the property is only likely to be valued in the region of £275,000. So why are we doing it? Okay, let's discuss the revenue, and then hopefully you will kind of get to see why it's such an attractive investment vehicle. Bless you. So the revenue for 6 ensuite rooms, which is kind of what we're looking for, will be
It's what we've got.
Sorry, yes, it's what we've got. Will be a minimum of £550 per room per month. Now that's very conservative. We've got 2 HMOs already. Both of them not in a gooder area. One is at £500 rough on average a month. The other one is at £535. This is, I think, a nicer property. In a nicer area. We've looked at comparables online, and I think 550 is sort of very reasonable, and I'm actually hoping we kind of push up to sort of 575 or even 600 for on average for the rooms. But let's just not get ahead of ourselves and call it 550 for certainly for the purposes of this calculation. Bearing in mind when we did the calculations originally to work out whether it was a good investment, which was kind of almost probably about a year ago now, rent's gone up in the area about 7%. So we were originally talking about 550. In theory now, as I said, we could be up to sort of the 575 mark, even 600. So it's looking good on that front. But £550 a month, if they were all to be full, gets you 39,600. Okay, for your total revenue for the room. So that's pretty good. You're netting you're grossing almost 40,000 just from one property. Fortunately, that's not all going in your back pocket. There's obviously costs from that. Now, the first and the major cost is mortgage costs. Remember last week we talked about the value of 275,000. Now, from that, we are most likely to get a loan to value of 75%. Now, again, we'll do another special episode, I think, on mortgages and the various different loan to values and why you might go for one and not the other. So if mortgages float your boat, please tune into that. For now,
I won't tune in.
You hear me talk about it all the time, but you'll be on it, so you've got no choice.
I'll be on the mortgage.
Yeah.
Still not tuning in. I'll just be here.
Okay, but when I get you to sign all those documents, that's what it is. Right. For now, we're going to assume it's 75% of the loan to value. So that works out as a total mortgage of £206,250.
Oh, you've got to like numbers for this podcast.
Okay, and hopefully they'll be popping up on your screen, so you'll actually get to see what I'm talking about. Right. From then, we're going to also assume that we're going to pay an interest rate, a fixed interest rate, at 3% per month. Again, we'll discuss in another episode potentially whether you want to do a capital mortgage or an interest only. Here we're doing interest only at 3%. Okay, that works out at £618.75 a month, giving us a total for the year of £7,425. Okay, so we started at 39.6. That's now just been wiped out, almost £7,500 from that. So roughly £32,500 left. Right, but there's more costs we have to take away. We have to do management, 10%, so roughly 4,000.
So tell you what the manager does.
Yeah, go on.
He lets the rooms out. He gets all the... So on average, it takes 3 viewings per room to get it rented. That's quite a lot of man hours that we can't be bothered with. If there's any leaks, repairs, tenants losing the key at 2 a.m, can't get in the house, he deals with it all. So get a manager in, otherwise you've got another part-time job. That's what we...
Yeah, and I think we've touched on this in previous episodes, but I actually think you're doing him a bit of a disservice here.
I'm so sorry, he's a great guy.
It's not the fact that we can't be bothered doing the viewings, because we do rent out and do our single lets. We don't actually get the tenants in, but it's not just the man hours. If I thought it was just the man hours, for this kind of...
He's very skilled.
Well, he's very skilled, yeah, for the kind of money that we're talking about, because obviously £4,000 a year is a lot. So in theory, I potentially would be looking to save that, especially when we talk about 3 of these, or 4 or 5, depending on how many we ever, we get in the near future. But the point is he's actually is very skilled at it, both in getting the tenants in and then managing the tenants. We've had fantastic feedback from tenants about how well it's managed, and he gets the right blend of tenants. And he makes sure that they're going to be paying.
If there's 4 boys in the house, he will make sure the other 2 rooms are girls.
Which is, I don't know. I just feel like it's very useful to have someone on who's basically looking out for these things and isn't panicked. Now we're fairly relaxed by the whole system, but I think certainly at the outset when the rooms are empty, let's say there's 5-6 rooms empty, I think we're a bit more panicky and we'd almost be accepting anyone in.
We were on the first one.
Yeah, and he was like turning people away, and we were like, no,
he won't let, if they're over 40, he won't let them in.
Well, that's not an official rule because we don't want him to get into trouble.
Oh, right.
But
he's aware that if he's got a 20-year-old girl living there, you don't want a 50-year-old guy.
So it's all about the dynamics of the house, and those dynamics might change over time. But he's looking out for these kind of issues.
Anyway, we don't need to tell his name.
But that is the reason why we're happy to spend the £4,000. But obviously that comes off our total revenue of just under 40k. So the last 2 are bills and voids. Bills have gone up. There's no secret. We've done about 1 million episodes on inflation, but obviously energy prices are sky high and only going higher. But it's roughly working out at the moment about £75 per person per room. Sorry, £75 per person per month. So again, that's about £450 a month, probably going higher. That includes council tax, electricity, internet, which is still fairly reasonable, TV license, but it all adds up. And then after that we've got, so that's £5,400 for the 12 months, and after that we've got voids. Now voids we've actually been fairly lucky with, despite the virus, when we had only 3 left out of 6 in one of our properties. Overall, certainly at the moment, we're doing really, really well. Now I've included here voids. I've basically worked out as a roughly is the equivalent of 1 room being left for 2 months. Now that doesn't ever happen.
1 room left for 2 months
in a house.
Year.
Now what's more likely to happen is you might get 3 rooms for, let's say, 2 weeks at a time. But I've worked out that on average it's about 2 months, and that's the cost of 1,100. Okay. Now there's different. It's hard to tell, I think, what voids periods you might get, but that's what we've kind of worked out. So once you've worked all of that out, you've got a total profit of £21,715. So that's still pretty good.
How much?
21,000. No.
I always find out what the revenue is and halve it. That's generally
and I think that's probably about right, because from then you also might have maintenance. Now we've not really discussed maintenance
we have we also have a cleaner.
No, the cleaner's included.
Oh, right.
No, sorry, it's not included in that, but it's included in the bills. But what isn't included is the maintenance. So in a new build, you're unlikely to have much. So I think in both of our HMOs, we've had very little in terms of maintenance. In the single, that's a completely different ball game, because we didn't do huge renovations to start with. But in the HMOs, we've not had much, but you've got to kind of take some away. So call it overall a profit of £20,000, okay, which is pretty good for one property. Okay, now the next thing you have to
gonna leave you to it.
Okay, the next thing you have to work out is how much money we've had left in the deal. So you'll remember that our total spend was £326,000. If when you refinance that property and you get your loan for 75% of that, what's left is the 25%. Okay, now the 25% of that works out at £81,617. So how are you going to get back your £81,670? Well, that's from the profit. So we just said roughly it's about £20,000 per year. So then in about 4 years' time, you will get back essentially all the money that you put into the deal. You've got 80 grand left in the property after refinancing and £20,000 profit. So after 4 years, you've then got a cash generative asset that is essentially going up in value. Okay, pretty good. But there's actually more than that, because as well as that profit that you're getting from the rent, you're also gaining in capital growth. Now again, we've done lots of podcasts on capital growth, but for now, and at the moment last year, as you know, prices went up about 10%. but we're going to assume that they didn't go up 10%, and actually it's only 5%. But actually, we're even going to lower than that. I'm going to say, on average, we're going to go for £10,000 profit per year. Okay, so that takes us to £30,000 profit. So you've got your £20,000 essentially from the rental income as profit, but also a capital growth of 10%. And that's quite a bit. I think it works out as about 3.5%. Okay, of the £275,000 valuation that we'd put on this previously. Okay, now it's actually worth more, as we discussed at the start of the episode, but let's just call it 3.5% essentially of the 275,000. So overall profit of 30,000. Now you should be able to work out that actually you're getting your money back in less than 3 years. Okay, because you've got, if we're going on for 3 years, that would be £90,000 back, and we've actually only got £80,000 left in the deal. So it's roughly just over 2.5 years. It works out as, it's about 2.6 years, I think it is. So that's very good, okay? Because actually you've done all this work, and all of your money back is in less than 3 years' time. And now after that, you've then got a property that's making you £20,000 a year plus your capital growth. Now, you don't know whether the capital growth is going to be every year, but if history is got anything to do with it, then you're going to be essentially making money on the long term from this property. And this, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls, is the reason why we get involved with HMOs, because they set you up essentially for, hopefully for life. You've got this fantastic asset that's hopefully always going to be full or thereabouts, and that's always going to be in demand going forward. So I hope that was useful. That was kind of a whistle-stop tour behind some of these figures, but if you do have any comments, then please put them in the box below or get in touch. I'm going to read Ronnie's speech now as she's gone out. The content of this podcast is for general information purposes and not a recommendation to act. Please contact us or an independent financial advisor if you would like to discuss further. Thank you very much. Goodbye for now.